welcome back to this week's episode of Outside the Arena. I'm Griffin Senek, joined alongside my co-host Devin Bernstein, and it's been a busy week in sports, Dev. We've got a World Series matchup. I think probably the two teams we did not predict to be in the World Series are in the World Series, so a good old Outside the Arena curse. The NBA finally tipped off. We've seen, some teams there's a few teams who have played two games, but most teams only have one game under their belt. And then obviously the NFL now in week 8, I guess we are. So a lot's been going on. We're going to start off, though, talking about some baseball. And obviously, unfortunately for your Phils, Dev, did not go as planned. The last episode we filmed, they were up 2-0 at the time, I believe. And we essentially called the series. And that was a mistake. Arizona came back, won 4 of the last 5 games, 2 in Philly. So pretty crazy. They're going to take on the Texas Rangers, who won 4 games in Houston. I mean, just a wonky, very wonky World Series. Wonky. I mean, both championship series going to Game 7 was awesome. We'll start off with the Diamondbacks. Obviously, huge upset, only 84 wins in the regular season. To take down a Phillies team that seemed like they had all that momentum going into Game 3. Your thoughts on the series and kind of the Diamondbacks and obviously the Phillies?
Yeah, I mean, the first thing I gotta say is just hats off to the Diamondbacks, man. Like, they absolutely could have given up or just slowed down and, not really fought like, all hell down 2-0, really getting blown out in game 2, but they fought. And, their pitching staff really was incredible the last 4 or 5 games of this series. Especially, fought, kind of coming out of nowhere. Again, we made fun of him. I made fun of him, and then he started to shove. So, this is just what happens, I guess. We can't make predictions anymore. No. But it didn't seem like there was any world the last time we talked like the Diamondbacks could come back. And then they had great pitching performances in a few games. They had great bullpen performances, I would say, every single game on. And with the exception of game 5, this Phillies offense just went freezing cold. And you can look at the Kimbrel blown save, and certainly that doesn't help. But I think, the way this team was constructed was to score a lot more runs than the other team, not to, when you look at the money, it's pretty much all towards the starting pitching and then the lineup, which is how a lot of teams are. And I'm not saying it shouldn't be that way, but this is the stars of the team is in the top part of that lineup. The huge additions over the last, 4 or 5 off seasons between Harper, Schwarber, Castellanos, Turner, Real Muto, even a bit further back, but still, like, these are all guys who they've brought in big money, like, at their positions. Like, this is who needed to step up. And, like, you don't want to blame anyone in particular because kind of everyone went cold, to be honest. But Castellanos really, really struggled, and then and Turner really went cold. And it's not to place blame or anything like that. That's just my analysis of like the big differences in the lineup. But hats off to Arizona, like I said. And I'm honestly, we haven't gotten into our pick yet, but I think I'm leaning towards Arizona. I don't want to pick against them right now.
Yeah, they just kind of have that team of destiny kind of vibe to them, which it feels like it feels like every year almost there's a team of destiny. It's kind of I guess what was last year? Astros, Phillies. That year before you had the Braves. I mean, it's just like year in and year out. That's what makes baseball so much fun. I think you kind of covered it pretty well. Like Arizona is just I think something that the Phillies use in that Brave series with the whole Arcia comments. I think the Diamondbacks just started kind of getting a lot of hate. You had, I guess there was some Garrett Stubbs talking about, something and then you had Chris Russo later in the series saying he'll retire if the Diamondbacks win, which has become a whole huge bit now. Where like Torey Lovella, the Diamondbacks manager, actually like fucking hates Chris Russo at this point, which is awesome. But it's been interesting for sure. I don't know where I was going, but yeah, like you said, like the Phillies have spent their money on the lineup. Like you look at the guys, the guys they're paying like almost probably, half a billion over $500 million in contracts to way almost like $1 billion probably,
Might
yeah.
be a
In
billion,
terms of
yeah.
Schwarber, Turner, Harper, Castellanos, and they just all went cold, like you said. Like Castellanos especially, I think he was over 22, over 23, which is just like he was so hot for was it the start of the series in the NLCS,
Yep.
right? Yeah, he had
Yeah,
like all
well,
the
he
back.
he had the home run in game one, and then he didn't get another hit.
Okay, it was the Brave series where he had
It
the
was
two
mostly
games
the
of.
Brave
Okay,
series.
okay, yeah. But he was super hot, and then it's just he went totally cold. Turner, like you said, when those guys aren't performing, like at the end of the day, like if though it sounds kind of stupid because obviously if your stars aren't playing well, you're not going to play well. But with the way the Phillies roster is constructed, like you said, like those four guys, like if they're not hitting the ball, this Phillies team is not good enough to go and win a playoff series at the end of the day. The bullpen, I mean, Kimbrel, I think is probably a dead man walking in Philadelphia at this point. No, not. I mean, I don't know what they're expecting. I feel like it's been the same old story with him these last few years. Um, yeah, I really thought the Phillies were going to win the series. I was shocked, especially when even after the Diamondbacks won too. As once the Phillies got Game 5, I was like, okay, they just need one at home. Like they should have it in the bank. And credit to the Dbacks, man. They showed up and they're a feisty team, and it's been fun watching. I think for the Phillies, obviously it's got to suck because I feel like this year you look at the Diamondbacks and you got to think that, especially going up 2-0, you got to think that's a team that you should have beaten, and then that this could have been the year. I don't know. It's tough, but yeah, really good series, and it's baseball is just crazy. I mean, the fact that the Diamondbacks are in the World Series is wild. If you told someone that at the beginning of the year, I think they would have thought you were crazy. I mean, I think the D-backs are probably projected to be like almost fourth in this division, maybe third or fourth by, no one had them ahead of the Padres or Dodgers, and they're in the World Series. It's just crazy.
Yeah, it's unreal. It's unreal.
So I guess before we jump into predictions, we'll talk about the other series, Astros at Rangers. Every game in this series was won by the away team, which is pretty wild. Obviously, Houston went down 2-0, and then they go to Arlington, to Texas. They get the bats going. It feels like momentum's back on their side. Obviously, Game 5, Altuve has that go ahead 3-run homer in the top of the 9. It felt like at that moment that was probably the series, and then Texas just keeps coming back. Adolis Garcia, what a series he had! I think he's up to like 20 RBIs, maybe 7 home runs in the playoffs or something like that. Maybe I'm wrong on the home runs, but I feel like that's right. Crazy. I mean, he's been balling. The pitching, they've been able to string it together somehow, some way. I mean, your thoughts on this series? Obviously, I think both of us thought Houston was going to win, and potentially even when they were down 2-0, we still kind of thought Houston was going to come back, and they did. They should have won that series. Honestly, I mean, the Rangers outplayed them, but like it's the same thing as the Phillies. When you up 3-2 and you got 2 games at home, it's like, how do you not win?
Yeah. No, I mean we were so close to a World Series rematch. And I'm excited for this series regardless. Just because the Rangers have also looked so freaking good. I mean, this lineup is just incredible. Evan Carter is my sleeper pick to win the World Series MVP here. Obviously, Seager and Garcia, and then Carroll or Marte for the Diamondbacks would be like the favorites. But then besides those guys, you look at who's really hitting it well. It's Carter, and they don't have any starting pitchers that are lefties for the Diamondbacks, so it looks like he'll probably be playing almost every game in this series. So I don't know what the odds on that are, but maybe, I don't know. But he's been really good. And then Garver and Heim have both they've hit some home runs, especially later in that series. I think they both had one in maybe game 6. I'm forgetting exactly which one, but something like that. And to be honest, the only one who hasn't gotten it going is Simeon. But he seems almost like overdue in a way. So I mean, I'm just very confident in this lineup. And their pitching staff has done exactly what they needed to, except with the exception of those 3 games in Texas. But um, overall they've exceeded their expectations, and that's been a big reason why they're here, and a big reason why they're the betting favorites to win the World Series right now. Um, that being said, if we can go into predictions,
Yeah.
I think I'm gonna go with the Diamondbacks. I mean, I don't know if I've just seen too much of this Diamondbacks team, and maybe the magic runs out against another more talented team. That this is probably the third straight team that is more talented than them, and then that's forgetting a 3-game wild card series, which is really a toss up in any sense. So it's possible the luck runs out, but I'm just not betting against this team. They seem to know how to grind out these tough at bats and just get hits and keep the line moving. And if it has to be ugly and score a run, it'll work. And then, if they need to get into a shootout, they kind of can. They didn't necessarily, do that, but they have the firepower. And, no one in the lineup is performing, terrifically besides Marte and I guess Moreno. But it does feel like everyone is like has had a few key hits, that's a big thing to have in the playoffs. So I'm gonna go with the Diamondbacks in like 6 or 7. I think this is gonna be a great series, very competitive, a lot of back and forth. Yeah. What about you?
Yeah, I'm gonna go with the Rangers. I think, all credit to the Diamondbacks. I think they've had an incredible season. And I think they can win the series. Like you said, I think it'll be a very competitive series. I think this Texas lineup is it's just something else, man. It's so good. I mean, they had what, like 5 or 6 all-star starters this year, I believe, in the lineup, which just shows how loaded it is. And they've all performed. I mean, like you said, like outside of Simeon, who, I mean, if he gets it going, like oh my. But yeah, like Corey Seager is probably the best player in this series. Adolis Garcia is, the hottest hitter in baseball. Evan Carter, like you said, has been playing extremely well. He's been moved up all the way to the 3 hole now as a 21-year-old rookie, which is crazy on a World Series team, with like 6 All-Star starters. But yeah, I mean, it's been a fun team to watch, and like I just they've found ways to get it done. Like they faced a lot of adversity, I think, in that Astros series, going down 3-2. You have the whole Brian Abreu situation where tempers are flying, and they kept their composure and got it done in the big game. Their pitching has been pretty good. Evaldi's looked good. Jordan Montgomery's looked really good. Scherzer's out of their starters probably been the shaky one. I mean, I just he pitched 2 and 2/3 innings or something like that in Game 7, so he hasn't really been stretched out. So we'll see what he looks like in this series. But yeah, I don't know. I got them. I think the Diamondbacks. You can't count them out. But I don't know. I just think this Rangers lineup is, the Phillies lineup was loaded too, and they went cold. So anything can happen, as we've learned. I don't know. I think the Rangers just, I don't know, man. The more I talk, I'm like, maybe the Diamondbacks are gonna freaking do it, but I'll stay with the Rangers. But it should be a good series. I think. The one thing about it is for like the more casual baseball fans or just
Yeah.
casual sports fans, I don't think it'll be. I think it'll probably be one of the lowest watch World Series in the last like maybe forever. I mean, it's just 2 smaller market teams, but it still should be very interesting and just crazy. I mean, yeah, I'm rambling on, but yeah, it's a wild 2 teams to get in the World Series.
Yeah, that's baseball though.
That's baseball for you. All right. Well, I guess the series will probably be for the next episode, a few games underway, most likely. So unless one of these teams sweeps, which I think I think the series will still be going on. So regardless, we'll touch on that next week. But moving along, we're going to talk some NBA real quick. Obviously, like we said, they tip opening night was on Tuesday. So we're only like 3 days into the season, but we've already seen some pretty good games. Last night, Lakers at Suns, Sixers at Bucks, both really close games, came down to the wire. We can start off with your 76ers. Damian Lillard's first game at the Bucks, he drops 39 points. Your thoughts on what you saw from the Bucks, but also obviously the 76ers dealing with the whole, James Harden off the court situation right now, where it's just a mess. So your thoughts on how they looked without Harden, and you can throw in your thoughts on that situation too if you want.
Yeah, I'll just do the Harden thing quickly because I don't want to talk about this for too long. Like, I mean, they just got to come to an agreement. I mean, either Maurice got to say, all right, I'm not going to get the exact value I want, or Harden's going to say, all right, I'm going to just have to play as hard as I can until I, get an actual trade market developed for me. Someone is just going to have to be a grown up in this situation. And I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen because they both don't seem to want to be grown ups. So it'll be interesting. Outside of that, the Sixers actually looked like pretty good. Embiid always starts the season really slow, and he didn't look horrible last night, but he did have some bad turnovers, which is whatever. I mean, that's par for the course for the first game of an 82 game regular season. It's not a big deal, but he certainly looked like himself. Kelly Oubre had 27 points off the bench, was playing very good defense on Damian Lillard, although Dame did get the better of him a decent amount of the time. I can assure you that the eye test was like, okay, Kelly Oubre actually may be a good defender at this point in his career, which is not something, I necessarily thought going into the year. Tobias Harris had a really good efficient game. Maxey had a really good game. This is just a Sixers team that looks like it's going to be way better coached than it was last year, regardless of whether or not they have Harden, which I just think brings up the floor so much for this team and the ceiling at the same time. So I do think that I do get why Morey is like, okay, what if I can get, a really good, maybe not even an all-star caliber wing, just a good third option type wing, like an OG Anunoby for Harden. Like, is that possible? Like something like that, or a Siakam, like, because then you start talking about like Maxey, whoever that wing is, and Embiid, and that with some, good bench pieces and Nurse, like that's not the most ridiculous thing. I would probably have them as the third best team in the East in that situation. So, it's not all doom and gloom for the Sixers, but I'm just going to talk about the Bucs now. Just there's not too much to say about the Sixers right now until the Harden situation gets figured out. But with the Bucs, I mean, obviously, it's just the whole thing with Giannis is you have to pack the paint, and the whole thing with Dame is you have to have somebody on him at all distances, and it's just that's really hard to defend. And they barely even got into the pick and roll with these two, and that's just scary for the rest of the league. And I think they might just do that, where they don't even pull it out until the playoffs, and then they just get into this whole nother gear in the playoffs.
Yeah.
So I'm very confident that this is the best team in the East, to be honest. I don't love what the Celtics have done, and I just don't think there's anyone else that can really compete with this team. So I see them as one of the top two or three teams in the NBA. Yeah, I mean that's mostly it on this game. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think you, as if it wasn't clear enough to the viewers, Devin is the NBA expert here on Outside the Arena. So, I mean, I'm not going to talk too much about this, but yeah, like you said, the Bucks are they're going to be a tough team to go against. Like they've already got a lot of good defensive players. Obviously, Giannis leading the way. So it allows for them to subtract Drew Holiday, add Dame Lillard, and it probably won't affect them too negatively on the defensive side of the ball. And Dame is just like you said, like it's just I saw I don't know if it was a TikTok or what I saw or a tweet, but it was something like, Giannis can be like this Bucks team is really dangerous because you have Giannis who you can give the ball to. He can be your leading scorer for, 40 minutes of this game or whatever. And then for the last, 5-10 minutes, Dame is just your number one option in crunch time. And it gives you just such a unbeatable force, it feels like. I think we're already seeing how good this team can be. I don't know. Giannis only scored 23. The Sixers did pretty good, keeping him at bay. I think it's going to just be fun watching to see how those two kind of gel throughout the season. And like you said, like what the possibilities are in the playoffs, what they're going to, even try to do in the regular season, how hard they're really going to be going. So, yeah, I mean, and the flip side, the Sixers, it's the NBA regular season. Like it's really tough to all that matters is the playoffs at the end of the day. Like these teams are
Yeah.
both going to be in the playoffs. But a good showing from them, and they just like you said, they got to get this Harden situation figured out. It seems like he's trying to play, but then he was away for 10 days, so it's just a mess. I think they just at some point got to be like, all right, we got to figure this out because it's bringing unnecessary attention to the rest of the team, and just if you can get something for him, great. If not, like, is he going to play? If so, great. Otherwise, like, do you even just like figure out a buyout with him or something like that? Like, almost have to figure out something at this point because, you know, it's just an unnecessary, hopefully I think they'll probably try to wait to trade him just because like you don't want to just let go of this guy for nothing because that would, and not, they looked good obviously, but like if they don't get another piece for him, like you said, like can this team seriously compete as a champion, seriously compete for a championship without getting anything for Harden or without Harden? I think it would be interesting to see. I don't know if we know. I think it would be on Embiid to kind of, really show up in the playoffs, which, he hasn't necessarily done at times, and Maxey to potentially take a step. Um, so yeah, I'm kind of rambling on, but it's very interesting. I think the Harden situation, this guy's just, it's just he brings trouble wherever he's gone these last few years. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's just the track record speaks for itself with Harden. I mean, I don't think he's necessarily like a horrible dude, but
Nah.
he just causes a lot of like drama, and he's a diva. So, it's
Yep.
not whatever. It is what it is. It'll get figured out. But the other game last night we saw, Suns Lakers, no Bradley Beal or Devin Booker for the Suns, and you're smiling, and I have a feeling that this is going to be something we see a lot this year with the
Yeah.
Suns, maybe a bit the Lakers, the Warriors, the Bucs, the Nuggets. It's a bit of an issue in the NBA, but besides that, the Suns actually came out really, really hot and looked just incredible with Durant on the floor. They just didn't really have an answer for him. He just looked like one of the best players in the world, which is no surprise to anyone. But then the fourth quarter, the Lakers went to this weird lineup with Christian Wood, who's not known as a good defensive player, on Kevin Durant. And they started swarming him. And, they started to go on a run the first 3 minutes with Durant off the court. But then when Durant came back in, they still couldn't score, couldn't get any good shots off. Just a great, almost playoff level intensity quarter from the Lakers to get back and avoid an 0-2 start, which again isn't a big deal, but like it's not what you want. You want to be winning these games, especially on national TV against good playoff teams. Like you want to be building it up. And the big thing, like the big difference is we saw from game 1 to game 2 for the Lakers is mostly just like LeBron looked more aggressive. He played 5-6 more minutes. I'm sorry, D'Angelo Russell, you're a good secondary third piece, but you just shouldn't be the lead shot taker, lead ball handler. Like that's just not conducive to being a great offense. It should be a lot of LeBron, a lot of AD in the post, and then mostly Reeves, to be honest, as the third option. And he hasn't gotten enough touches in the first few games, to be honest. But with the Suns, it's really just injuries. I mean, they looked really, really good in game 1, even with a bad Kevin Durant game, just because that's how good Booker is, who I would say is arguably better than Kevin Durant at this point, which is scary to say. That anyone's on Kevin Durant's own team is better than him, and then they also have Bradley Beal. So, the Suns have some weaknesses in their roster for sure, but I see the upside as well. Yeah, they look like they're going to be a really good team, and again, you just don't want to see Kevin Durant, Devin Booker, and Bradley Beal on the same team in the playoffs, even with a pretty meh surrounding roster, if we're being nice, to be honest.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, that's what I was looking at the box score, and you just see the names that they're rolling out without Booker and Bradley Beal. I mean, you're starting Grayson Allen, Eric Gordon, and then you got these guys, Jordan Goodwin, who, to be honest, I mean, I'm a casual guy, I've never really heard of him. Drew Eubanks, Yuta, Nasir Little, like it's a funny little group they got there. But yeah, I mean, these two teams are going to be at the top of the Western Conference this year, battling for it. I think the Nuggets are probably still that top team, but these two teams are probably right up there for a claim to that number 2 spot. Probably the Suns. We obviously haven't seen the big three take the floor together yet, which that's with a KD big three that these last few years when you're not seeing them on the court already, it's like, oh God, what's going to happen? But yeah, KD looked great. He was, I don't want to say out there by himself because some of these guys are solid players. Like Eric Gordon's been a good player in the league for a while. Grayson Allen's a good defensive player. But I mean, he was kind of out there on his own a little bit, but he played well. The Lakers, AD had a better game, obviously. In game 1, it was like he didn't shoot a shot in the second half or something like that. He just didn't do anything, which just can't happen. You need Anthony Davis shooting the ball, especially if they're talking about limiting LeBron's minutes during the regular season, which obviously understandable. He's got a lot of tread on his tires at this point. And yeah, it'll be interesting to see how obviously the depth, some of these pieces, Gabe Vincent, Christian Wood, Cam Reddish, some newer guys on this Lakers team, Torian Prince as well. So it'll be interesting seeing how those kind of guys kind of gel with the rest of the core that's kind of been established in LA. So yeah, I think it'll be interesting seeing how both these teams kind of go from here. It's always fun when LeBron and KD face each other, and both these guys still look like they're obviously LeBron, I think, is not at his peak anymore, but both these guys are still playing, high, very high end and high level basketball. So always fun when they match up.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and then lastly, I think the one storyline we want to talk about, Victor Wembanyama. There we go.
There you go.
First career game. They did lose. He only played 23 minutes, got into some foul trouble, I believe. But 15 points, 5 rebounds, 2 assists. Obviously they played the Mavericks. Luka dropped a triple double, whatever. Your thoughts on Wembanyama's first game? What'd you like? What do you see that, anything that concerns you? I don't know. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I don't even know what side of the ball I want to talk about first because they're both so exciting to me. I'm going to start with the defense because I'm a bit of a defense nerd with basketball. I just love the different ways you can use him. And obviously the shot blocking is the main thing. And, that's huge. But his ability to guard on the perimeter and his size and wingspan allows him to essentially be a help defender and, close out on his guy in the corner at the same time in a way we've basically never seen before. And this guy's a rookie. It's rare we see someone, have great defensive instincts as a rookie. And either he's already there, which is great, or he's already so talented defensively that it doesn't matter. And once he does figure that out, he's going to be even better defensively. So truly, I mean, you can use him wherever on defense as long as it's not like defending a guard. But, even then, he's better than most 7-footers, you'd assume, just based off his lateral quickness and agility. And like he's very coordinated and a fluid athlete, especially obviously for someone who's 7'4". Like you look at like a Boban Marjanovic, like he can't run. Like
Yeah,
he's just too like awkward. Like that's just how a lot of people that size are. And like you look at Porzingis, he's certainly not awkward, but he doesn't even have nearly the ball handle and quick twitch ability that Wembanyama has. And now I'm kind of getting into the offense a little bit, and it's like, again, he's taking the ball up, he's setting screens, he already knows like the dribble handoff game like the back of his hand. Like you see a bit of like the Jokic, like Bam Adebayo type passing ability from him out as a center, which is like maybe been Embiid's biggest, criticism in the playoffs has been he's not a great passer, and that could lead to a lot of turnovers. He did turn the ball over a lot, I will say that, but like he already seems to have a very good passing sense. And who the hell are you putting on him, man? Because you're either putting a center who's shorter than him and slower than him, or you're putting like a big wing who maybe has the lateral quickness, but he just can shoot over him literally every time. That's what we saw with Grant Williams, who's a damn good defensive player. It's just you just can't do anything sometimes. And once he learned, he was just like, oh yeah, I just got to start shooting it. I mean, he was in foul trouble. They're not going to play him a ton of minutes, obviously. Like they're not going to try to push him to 38, 40 minutes as a rookie. There's no point to doing that. But I can't wait to watch him play. And I know it's easy to say this guy gets too much hype and all this, but if you're going to die on that hill, I'm just going to warn you right now that it's not a hill you want to die on. I mean, if you are going to fade anyone, why are you fading the 7'4" absolute freak who can do everything on the basketball court? And, his only question is injuries. And it's not even that he's been injured. It's just that his body frame suggests that he would get injured. So, I mean, I know he gets a lot of attention, and it's tough when he hasn't necessarily proven anything yet, but you just gotta trust it sometimes. And this guy he's just going to be that good. I mean, there's just no doubt in my mind that he's going to be a Hall of Fame player if he stays healthy. That's just the reality to me. He's 19 years old and he already looks like one of the more tough guards in the league. And I just can't imagine what he's going to be like in 4 years with 20 pounds of muscle on him. That's all I have to say. I mean,
Yeah, I agree. I think I think with the problem, I think that I don't know if it's a problem, but I think the whole narrative with him is made it so that it's like, oh my God, his rookie year, like he better be like leading this team to the playoffs and like averaging 30 points and 4 blocks and 50 rebounds. Like it's going to take time. Like this kid's not going to come in and win the MVP his first year in the league. Like it's just not going to happen. The Spurs are still like maybe they'll compete for a playoff spot or a play-in spot, but like the Spurs as a whole still probably aren't that good of a team. So it's going to take time. He needs to get used to America. Needs to get used to the NBA. You know, I think we're going to see how obviously he progresses this year, and I think we'll have a pretty clear picture of kind of where he's headed. And 100% if he comes in and somehow, which I don't think this is going to happen, obviously, but let's say he did average like he played 30 minutes a game and averages like 12 points or something, then I think there's absolutely a warrant to be like, okay, it's a little disappointing or whatever. But based on the first game, I don't see that being likely. I think you just got to give this kid some time to develop, like you said, put on some muscle, get used to the NBA, and turn into the star that he's likely to become. And you just can't judge him off one game, but also even this first year. Like it's going to take, to debate whether the hype is warranted with him. It's going to take like 5, maybe even 10 years to like really settle that debate. So it's pointless to even talk about something like that this season because he's just got to learn. He's just got to, he's going to learn and grow in the system. He's going to learn and grow under Popovich, and I'm excited to see how he kind of progresses throughout the year. Yeah, I mean that's kind of all I got. I think like you said, like he's very impressive. Like I was impressed with I didn't watch much of this game, but the clips I saw and the highlights I did watch, I thought he looked good. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see throughout the year. I think it's gonna be a fascinating discussion of how he's progressing. So yeah, that's kind of all I got.
yeah, no. You ready to get into NFL?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right.
So filming this on Friday, so we can actually talk about the Thursday night game for once. Interesting one. Bucs, Bills, pretty low scoring, 24-18, Buffalo. You know, it's so I was watching or I saw some clip from Pat McAfee's show with his interview with Aaron Rodgers, and Rodgers was talking about how quickly the narrative can just shift in the NFL. Like literally 2 games, he was bringing up the Jets, how their season was dead, as Zach sucked, and then 2 wins, and it's like, okay, this team's going to compete for the AFC East, maybe even the Vikings, where it should tear it all down. Now they're half gaming out a wild card, and the Bills, I think, are another team where you look at that. I mean, they were on top of the world. It felt like 4-1. I think they were. The media was riding this team again, and then they go and lose 2 in a row. Obviously, got the win yesterday, so big bounce back win for them. Or I guess it was they lost 2 of 3. I guess it was. So they were 3-1. It was after that Dolphins game where it felt like,
Right.
oh my God,
Yeah.
the Buffalo hype is higher than ever. But they go out, get the job done. I mean, Tampa Bay, it feels like they've kind of fallen back to earth. They're 3-4 now. Your thoughts in these 2 teams, and kind of your thoughts on Buffalo, because obviously 5-3 at this point in the season. They bad loss to the Patriots last week too, which we obviously didn't talk about. So your thoughts on kind of where the Bills stand right now?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I think we always tend to overreact as an NFL community, but a bit especially with the Bills. I mean,
Yeah,
it just feels like this isn't as complicated as people make it out to be. It's an old defense, but it's well coached, and it's a very good offense that has the potential to be bad some weeks. So
yeah.
they're a very high variance football team. They can beat anybody, they can lose to anybody. And, does that mean I'm ever going to pick them to win the Super Bowl? No, but I will never be surprised if Josh Allen just goes Superman mode for 4 games and wins them a Super Bowl. I mean, that doesn't sound that crazy to me. We've seen him do it for 4-game stretches or 3-game stretches. It's just, it's not the most likely thing to happen that he's playing absolute football. But we see, like, when Josh Allen is at his best, he's about as good as anyone. Like, It's very impressive. And then, the defense looked better last night. It was less close than the score suggested. Like the
Yeah.
Bucs got really bailed out on that last drive, or the second to last drive, like 3 penalties on fourth down. It was like a 17 play drive, like really weird, and then like a tip on the 2-point conversion. But they just they fight, like you said, like their season seems to be tapering off a little bit. I don't have a ton of big takeaways on the Bucs, to be honest.
Yeah.
We know who they are. They could still, I guess, win this division, but I guess I'm back to leaning towards the Falcons, I guess.
It's a mess.
That's a mess. That's a mess, but I guess I'm leaning towards the Falcons, so yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's my takeaways on the game. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, like the Bucs, I mean, Baker played all right. Like Baker's had a bounce back season. You know, Mike Evans has been pretty good. I don't know, like you said, like just this team is like we know what they are. Buffalo, um, I think the most encouraging sign on the offensive ball was just how Josh Allen was really able to spread it around. Obviously, Diggs is always going to do his thing. He had 9 catches, but Khalil Shakir had 6 catches for 92 yards. Gabe Davis 9 for 87 and a touchdown. Kincaid, who's really burst onto the scene these last 2 weeks, 5 for 65 and a touchdown. So I think that's really encouraging because I think with this Buffalo offense, as good as they are, as good as Josh Allen has been, it's felt like outside of Diggs, they've really been missing kind of more pieces. Obviously, Gabe Davis has been there, and like the hype's been with him for a bit, obviously, especially after that Kansas City game a few years back. Last year was kind of I don't want to say disappointing, but I think people had higher expectations and how he performed. So just kind of seeing, real 4 solid options go off in this game, I think is huge for the Bills because just being able to spread the ball around is, obviously it just makes this offense that more I can't get the words right in
All
my
the
head,
more
the phrase,
dangerous.
all the more dangerous. There we go. Yeah. So yeah, and James Cook has been really running the ball well too. I mean, you got to give credit to him. This team really hasn't, when they were running out Devin Singletary year in and year out, they didn't really have too much of a run game, and they still don't run the ball that much. But I mean, it feels like James Cook, I think he's got to be averaging over like 4 yards a carry, I would
Yeah,
imagine, this season. Yeah, he's
he
averaging
is
5.
averaging.
He's averaging 4.8 and 5.2 in his career. So he's been balling for them, which is huge because gives them a legit running game. So yeah, I think the Buffalo offense is actually probably as good as it's ever been with Josh Allen potentially, in terms of talent.
Oh my God.
Defensively, they're a bit banged up, obviously, with Trey White and Matt Milano going down for a bit.
Sorry,
But
hold on.
no, you're good.
Oh God. Okay.
A little light out. We got the
Why
desk,
is this
the
always
lamps moving.
this is bad?
It's all good. I'll transition us over to the first game of the weekend because I think we talked about that game enough. Jets Giants, battle of the 2 New York teams. Jets coming off the bye, Giants coming off a win against Washington. Tyrod Taylor's
There we
actually
go.
looked pretty good. There we
Oh my
go.
God.
Almost
Sorry.
lamped down. But yeah, we're back in the light. Jets Giants. This is a really big week for the Jets, I think. I mean, this is a game they absolutely must win. Danny Dimes still out, Andrew Thomas doubtful. So you got to hope that the defensive line can get to the quarterback. DJ Reed, Sauce Gardner also both going to be back, which is huge. Your thoughts on the Battle of MetLife Stadium?
Yeah, I think it'll be interesting. Just because this Giants offense has looked like weirdly competent the last 2 weeks, but I don't see it happening this week. I just think this Jets defense is too good. Maybe Tyrod will be able to avoid the turnovers and maybe he can lead them to like 10 points, but I don't see that. I don't see a even solid day from the offense. So they're going to have to probably have a great defensive performance like they did against the Bills, something like that, which is possible against this Jets offense. I guess I guess it's like truly a neutral site type game. I don't know.
Yeah,
That's very
I think
interesting.
I think it'll be. I mean, I think it's Giants like season ticket holders and that
Right.
get to be there. So, and the stadium will be all Giants, I guess. Then, so it'll be. But like you said, like there's still gonna be a ton of Jets fans there. So,
Yeah. So
um,
that's weird. That's just a weird aspect of it. I'm thinking about now. I'm gonna go with the Jets though. I just think the Giants' margin for error is too thin, and it's not gonna be fun against this Jets defense. And the Giants' offense has been like almost overperforming the last few weeks in a weird
They've
way.
only scored like 14
Yeah.
points.
Oh yeah. No. 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 Oh yeah. They've scored like 25 in the last 2 games or something. But yeah, exactly. But that's why I'm going with the Jets.
Yeah, I'm gonna pick the Jets too. I don't think this is too complicated. I mean, the Giants' defense has been better the last 2 weeks, no doubt, and you gotta give them credit for that. But their their offense is just not good, and you pair that up going against a really good Jets defense, it's just gonna make for a long day for Tyrod Taylor. I mean, you gotta hope, you gotta go into this game basically saying, Saquon Barkley is gonna have to carry the ball 30 times if we're gonna have a chance to win, and we may very well see something close to that. It'll be interesting, but yeah, I'm gonna go with the Jets. Coming off the bye too, they'll be fresh. Been able to think about this one for a bit, and Brees Hall has really burst back onto the scene, I guess you could say, coming off that ACL tear. He's been really good the last 2 weeks, so I expect him to have a big game. And Zach Wilson hopefully can just keep getting better and better. And 4-3 would be big for this Jets team. So I'm gonna go with them. I just don't think the Giants are very good. And yeah, I agree. I think some probably negative regression is probably due for this offense, the way they've been kind of playing pretty solid the last few weeks. Moving along, Jaguars at Steelers. Jaguars were Thursday night game last week. They took down the Saints. Steelers are such an interesting team. They're 4-2. They beat the Rams this week. I mean, it is like it. Mike Tomlin is like maybe the greatest coach of all time. I mean, these last few years, he has been dealt just not very awful offenses, pretty good defenses. This defense is very elite. But it's 4-2. Kenny Pickett's just been kind of mediocre the whole season. It's so weird. But Jacksonville, obviously another pretty solid team, 5-2. So this one is in Pittsburgh, but what are your thoughts?
Yeah, it's weird because like this is such a good defense, but when you think about it, it's like they they give up a decent amount of yards. They're just so opportunistic and have so many playmakers that they seem to be able to almost give their offense points every week. So even if they're giving up, a
Yeah.
few more points than the best defenses, they're probably generating a few more points than the best defenses, are. It feels like they almost have like a defensive score almost every week. Or at least every time they win. And this offense isn't good, but I really do think Pickett is fine. I just think he hasn't had his, the only guy who can really get open a ton in Deontay Johnson this whole year. And he doesn't have a very good offensive line. And he's just now sort of like, oh, I've got this really good George Pickens dude. Let me start targeting him 8 to 10 times a game. And it's like, okay, he has a good like back shoulder type throw. He has a good go ball. He's figuring some things out. He's still a bit like scared in the pocket in the sense of like the first time he sees pressure, he'll kind of bail out. And that's why I'm ultimately gonna go with the Jaguars in this game. I just trust the quarterback so much more. And like I said, I don't think Pickett's really the problem, but he's also not going to be someone who can dig you out of a bad situation with Matt Canada, or whatever offensive line, and a fine group of playmakers, but nothing special necessarily. Um, and yeah, the Jags offense I just think has looked pretty good the last few weeks. They are kind of like the Eagles in a way where we haven't seen them play their best game, but their record's still pretty good, which like feels like generally a good sign. As long as we do end up getting that best game at some point.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think this is a good team. I think Ridley needs to get involved a little bit more just for this team to really reach like an elite level. But I think other than that, they're doing the right things and their defense has gotten a lot better than it was last year. Trayvon Walker is like at least a good number 2 edge rusher, which is very important for their number 1 pick, which I feel like no one talks about how bad he's been. But
He's got oh no, I thought it was 6 sacks. He's only got 2.5 this year.
okay. I
I
was
thought
gonna
he had
say if he had six sacks,
six
that would be
career sacks.
six
Six
career
career
sacks. I would be eating my words if he had six sacks.
sacks.
But Josh Allen has had a really good year, the pass rusher, and the back end has gotten a lot better since they released Shaquille Griffin and have moved Darius Williams back to the outside with Tyson Campbell. Just been a lot better for them, like scheme wise and just overall wise, they're just better players. So this defense is at the very least like passable, and I don't think they're gonna, be frightened by the Steelers offense. And I think this Jags offense is going to be able to play smart with Trevor Lawrence at the helm and still get their fair share of big plays against the Steelers. So I'm going to go with the Jags.
Yeah, all good points. I'm gonna pick the Steelers though at home. Um, the Jags, they're 5-2. Credit to them; they've been scoring points. I don't know, like you said, like I just feel like Trevor Lawrence is not. He hasn't been bad, but he just hasn't been like elite. Like I think
Yeah.
I don't know if it's a step back. I don't know what it is, but I just haven't like seen him. I don't know. I just feel like he hasn't balled out yet, which is kind of weird considering they're 5-2 and like all these receivers. I mean, he hasn't played bad. I'm not trying to be a Trevor Lawrence hater. I just feel like I was expecting, I guess, just to see more of a leap considering where he got to at the end of last year. Maybe he's just a slow starter. But I am going to pick the Steelers. I think their defense, will give this Jacksonville offense a little bit of trouble. I think they'll have more trouble running the ball. I think, TJ Watt will probably have a big game. I don't know, kind of just a gut pick. The Steelers team, I feel like I just can't pick against them at this point because they just always freaking win no matter what. So yeah, I'm gonna go with the Steelers. Deontay Johnson came back last week, so having him and Pickens in there is big for Pickett. Najee Harris scored his first touchdown of the season. The Najee Harris situation is so interesting. It's like this guy. I mean, it wasn't. I guess he kind of benefited from the Mr. Checkdown, Big Ben. But he had a solid first year in the NFL, and then it's just been like downhill, and they barely use him. It's so weird. But yeah, I don't need to talk about this game much more. I'll pick the Steelers. Another game that I think is pretty easy to pick: Eagles Commanders. I'm gonna go with the Eagles. AJ Brown just been a freak of nature these last few weeks. Commanders are terrible. I mean, they're somehow 3-4. They did play the Eagles close last time, but I just don't see that happening. Philly had a big bounce back win last week against the Dolphins, who are right up there in the top teams in the NFL. So, yeah, I don't see this Philly team slowing down anytime soon. So I'll pick them in a decisive win this time against the Commanders.
Yeah, I think everything suggests this should be a decisive win, but something about the Commanders just always seems to keep it close against the Eagles. So I'm not going to pick it to be a blowout, but I will pick it to be a relatively easy Eagles win. Like you said, like this Eagles team seems to finally be hitting their stride. After a big win against the Dolphins, and this Commanders team is just a week to week team on both sides of the ball. Like some weeks Sam Howell looks really good and the enemy looks like, he's really implemented the system from Kansas City and it's a lot of quick hitters and, everything's working well. And sometimes this defense looks so good because they're so talented in the front and they're well coached in the back and they have good safeties. But then there's some weeks where they just look horrible on both sides of the ball. And I don't get it. I really don't understand, to be honest. Like against the Eagles, this team plays much better. It seems like their front shows up. I don't know exactly what happens, but they're just very week to week. Like there are a lot of teams like that in the NFL, but the Commanders might actually be the most inconsistent in terms of what you're getting. I mean, they kept it close against the Eagles and then got blown out by the Bears. Like I
And
don't
lost
know.
to the Giants. It's
Yeah,
so
it's
weird.
it's so hard to say. So it's kind of all I got.
Yeah. Moving along, Rams at Cowboys. Cowboys coming off the bye. Obviously, last played against the Chargers. That was a big win for them. The Rams, they would just talk about the Steelers who beat them last week. It's an interesting one. I mean, this is a big game for the Cowboys. I think the Rams are obviously that offense is pretty good with Cooper Kupp, Puka Nacua, the dynamic duo. Dallas defense, obviously very good. What are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, this is kind of the nightmare matchup for the Rams, just because, the one thing they don't have is an offensive line that can really protect for all day. And, they're going to have to scheme a lot of good things up today, or not today, sorry, on Sunday. I don't know why
Yeah.
I said today.
I wish it was
But
today.
yeah, I wish it was today. But they're gonna have to be smart. A lot of double teams on Parsons, like they did to TJ Watt last week. But even then, they had Highsmith get in, and the Cowboys have similar level, secondary pieces like DeMarcus Lawrence and other guys that we've talked about. Like, it's just it's tough to pick against this Cowboys front. They've been great at home. I think the Rams are just so well coached, and Stafford is so smart at this point in his career. They're going to keep it close and be able to move the ball. And their defense is just like not talented at all besides Donald, but they play the right way. And
Russ Yeast, of course.
Russ Yeast, of course. I'm forgetting about Russ Yeast. I wanted to get to the point where I just say their defense isn't very talented besides Russ Yeast.
Yeah.
And that's it. But no, in all seriousness, I mean, this isn't a good defense, but they play hard. They're well coached, all that. Like, they're maximizing what they can be on both sides of the ball, which means you kind of know what you're going to get out of them most weeks. But that also kind of limits their upside in a way. And I just don't see them keeping up with the Cowboys. And the Cowboys I don't know. The Cowboys don't inspire much confidence in me offensively, but I just think this is a defense type game where their defense kind of wins it for them.
Yeah, I'll pick the Cowboys too. I think offensively, last game for them against the Chargers was better. They just gotta get CeeDee Lamb the ball at the end of the day. I mean,
Yep.
he's your best playmaker on offense, and he it's kind of similar to I don't know. I was gonna say similar to what was going on with Jamar. I mean, he wasn't really getting the ball probably as much as he should have, and they love that 7-Eleven, I'm always open kind of or whatever it is. Yeah. Regardless, get CeeDee Lamb the ball more. Tony Pollard, has had a solid season. I feel like, the first we've seen him, I don't know. It's like, I don't know. He's been fine. I mean, I think it's kind of what we expect, but yeah, it's just, is Dak good? It's the same old story. I mean, we're going to see the Cowboys in the playoffs, and it's just like, is Dak good enough to take them to the Super Bowl? And we'll find out this year. Probably not, but like you said, should be a defensive game for them. I could very well see the Rams pulling this through. Dak just like chucking this game away. I don't know, but I will pick the Cowboys in Dallas off the bye. Feels like they should be ready for battle. So yeah, I'll go with the Cowboys. Moving on to the NFC North. Man, what a downturn for the Packers it has been. They're now 2-4. Jordan Love has looked horrible. They've now lost back-to-back games they've lost 3 in a row now. They've lost to the Lions and then the Raiders and the Broncos. Really rough stretch for this team. I mean, I don't want to, steal. Obviously, Aaron Jones coming back from the injury, but this guy just, I mean, I know they're trying to limit him, but only 8 carries last week. I just don't get what they're doing with him. Obviously, Minnesota, though, on the flip side, just beat the Niners. Jordan Addison had his best game of his career. They've really turned it on, it seems like. Kirk is playing well. So your thoughts on this one is in Green Bay.
Yeah, these just like you said, kind of feel like two teams going in opposite directions. And maybe the Packers can turn it around and kind of flip that narrative on its head, but just what do they got going for him right now? I mean, like, Aaron Jones doesn't look like himself. The receivers are nothing inspiring. They're missing their best offensive lineman in David Bakhtiari. Elton Jenkins been in and out of the lineup as well. And then the defense is just really badly coached and isn't near the capability it probably can be. So what about this team is really exciting? Nothing. And the Vikings are solid on defense. They're coached well by Brian Flores, and this offense is really good. I've turned around on these older, less athletic, less, arm strength quarterbacks like Kirk Cousins, and Stafford definitely has an arm, but the less athletic, younger quarterbacks, I've turned around just because these guys are so damn smart. I mean, Kirk Cousins like dissected this Niners defense that we haven't seen anyone do that. Like, I was very impressed by that. And Stafford, too, but just talking about Kirk, like, he gets a bad rap because of the prime time, I guess, and because he's like never won in the playoffs, but like, he's just not an elite quarterback. You need to have an elite roster to win with a non-elite quarterback, and that's just not his fault. So,
Yeah.
I mean, unless he's not an elite quarterback, but I would say of the non-elite quarterbacks, he's one of the better. Once you get past like a Lamar or a Herbert or a Hurts, like I'm starting to think about Kirk Cousins, to be honest. And I don't think many people would say that, but I think he's really elevated this team without Jefferson. And once they get Jefferson back, I think this is a team that actually is probably going to make the playoffs in a weaker NFC. They have a really easy schedule coming up. And their defense is better than it was last year. I see no reason why this team is worse than it was last year, to be honest. And they won 13 games. And we all know that's not going to sustain because they won every single one score game possible.
Yeah.
But, I think they could be a 9 or 10 win team. And that's probably good enough for the playoffs in the NFC. So I'm going with the Vikings here, if that wasn't clear.
Yeah, I'm going to pick the Vikings too. Like you said, two teams going in opposite directions. I think last week was super encouraging, obviously, for Minnesota. Jordan Addison, I mean, I think he's second like in the NFL in touchdowns right now to Tyreek Hill, which is crazy. I mean, he looks like a star. Snatched that interception out of, I think it was Trevarius Ward's hands and took it for a touchdown, which was crazy. Madison and Akers, they got a solid duo there at the running back position. So yeah, like you said, like this team, Cam Bynum had 2 picks. It's a cool story too, obviously. I think his wife is stuck in the Philippines right now, so it's cool to, for him to be able to get some spotlight for that. Hopefully you get that figured out. But yeah, I mean, that's I'm gonna pick the Vikings. The flip side, the Packers are just like they're in a weird spot. Obviously Jordan Love, he looked really good first game or two, and then not been good since. He's just not looked great. Obviously, I mean, they came to agreement for next year, right? Isn't there it's like a $20 million salary, I think, something like that.
Yeah,
Maybe
I remember
less,
it was
15.
like weirdly similar to the 5th-year option.
Yeah, I think it was like slightly less. I mean, I can try to look it up, but regardless, it's obviously let's see. Next year it says, let's see, 5 million base. I don't know what now I'm confused. I don't really understand what it is. Whatever. Regardless, he's just, I don't know if he's that good, and I don't know if he's going to be their franchise quarterback. It'll be interesting. I mean, if this team keeps losing games and ends up in a top position, like they might pick a quarterback in the first round with how good this class is. So, I just don't think the Packers are very good. Aaron Jones, it's just, I know he's coming back from the hamstring. He's probably not 100%, but like at some point, you just got to let this guy. I just, AJ Dillon, like, no hate to AJ Dillon, but like he is what he is at this point. Like it's just like nothing special there. I mean, he had averaged like slightly over 4 yards a carry this week, but I don't know. I just think you got to do a better job of getting your best offensive player the ball, and I don't think they've done that all year, and I don't think they've done that even in recent years. So regardless, I'm gonna go with the Vikings. Probably means Packers will win. Jordan Love will look like a god, but we shall see next week. Falcons at Titans the next game. Ryan Tannehill's out, so it seems like Will Levis is going to be the one starting. I think Malik Willis and Will Levis. It seems like are both going to play, so maybe it's a little unclear who's going to start exactly. But it'll be fun to see Will Levis first crack at the NFL. The Falcons, obviously, really weird situation last week with Bijan like not playing and was sick, and fantasy owners, prayers out. I would have been going crazy if that happened to me. But they did beat the Bucs last week. They're somehow 4-3. So this is an interesting one. Titans, obviously, kind of just a gritty team. They trade Kevin Byard to your Eagles this week. Your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I don't feel it too hard either way here. I just think the best, whenever I'm not super sure, I like to think about what unit is going to, has the best chance to really dominate the game. And I'm just think that would be the Titans defense. So I'm going to go with the Titans here. It feels like a low scoring, 19-17, 20-19 type game. So it really could go either way. I just feel like Levis could maybe be better than Ritter, and Ritter feels like he seems like he's a week to week quarterback, and he was good last week, so maybe he's due for a not so good week this week. That's not real analysis, but that could be true. I think it's weird because he just, he looks like he can figure it out half the time, and half the time he looks like a complete waste. So I really don't know what to think of Ritter at this point, but that just means there's a lot of outcomes you could get from him, and the best one isn't even really that good, to be honest. So
Yeah.
I'm just gonna lean with the Titans here. What about you?
I'll go with the Falcons. I don't know. I just think this Titans team is pretty bad. They're obviously seems like kind of, I don't know if tear down's the right word, but it seems like they're really headed for a full rebuild here, which makes sense. Obviously, Tannehill's on the last year of his contract. You've got Will Levis and Malik Willis, so maybe one of those guys can be the future, which would be big. Obviously, then you can use your first round pick elsewhere. Um, the Falcons, I think they're doing better. I've been happier with what I've been seeing in terms of just getting the guys you draft the ball. Like Drake London has really started to play well. Kyle Pitts even is getting more and more catches. Obviously, Bijan didn't play this week, but you got to expect he'll have a good week. Get him the ball. I don't think Bijan's had a 20 carry game yet in the NFL. I think I was looking at it. I think it's maybe he hit 19, but get Bijan. I mean, he's young. Like this is the time to pound the rock with this kid, get him his touches. I know you I know Arthur Smith likes Algier, and Algier's a solid player, but Bijan, you draft him so high for a reason. He's proven he's a great NFL player already. Just get him the ball, get him more than 20 carries. They were such a run heavy team at the start. Now they're airing the ball out left and right. It's kind of it seems like this offense is going through like a midlife crisis almost, but yeah, I'm gonna pick the Falcons. I think the Titans just aren't very good, and I think I don't want to be the one to doubt the character of anyone in that locker room, but at some point you got to think that people are gonna be like, all right, like let's just kind of pack it in terms of effort for the season when you kind of realize you're not going anywhere. So I don't think that'll happen yet. They're only 2-4. You can obviously turn around a season still early, but I don't know. Maybe something to think about later in the year. Moving along to the AFC East, Pats at Dolphins. Both these teams lost last week. It's not true. Patriots won. Somehow beat the Bills. This Patriots so weird. I mean, that's just the NFL for you. Mac Jones actually looked pretty good. He had 272 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, and was really efficient. He completed, trying to do the math in my head, 25 of 30 is what, 5-6, so 80 something percent of his passes, I think. Yeah, we'll take it. Yeah. Yeah. Tua, obviously, Tyreek, I don't know. I'm rambling. What are your thoughts, Patriots?
Yeah, I don't know. I just feel like there's a bounce back week for the Dolphins and a fall back to earth week for the Patriots. Maybe their defense can keep it like a little closer than I'm suggesting, but I don't see this Patriots offense doing much. Xavier Howard, or nope. Well, Xavier Howard will be back, but Jalen Ramsey, who's much more important, will be back. So 2 key additions, 2 starters in the secondary, and that'll really give them the flexibility to do a lot more on defense. So they just seem to outmatch the Patriots on both sides of the ball. So I'm going with the Dolphins.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with the Dolphins too. Tua has never lost to Bill Belichick in his career, which is crazy. When I feel like for some reason I'd felt like the Pats always owned Tua, but it's like Tua's never lost to them, which is crazy. But this Dolphins offense, I mean, they had a down week obviously last week, but it's great. But they do, they need their signature win. I mean, they are 5-2, but the 2 real tough tests, I feel like, that would, be able to look at it is this: if this team was a Super Bowl contender, was against the Bills and against the Eagles, and they lost both those games, and they weren't necessarily close. So I think this team still needs to kind of have that big win. I don't think that's this week. I think they should be able to take care of business this week. But yeah, I'm going to go with the Dolphins as well. Moving along, Saints at Colts, bit of a boring one. The Colts actually look really good last week. I mean, Gardner Minshew, they got him like scrambling for touchdowns, throwing deep shots. JT finally got I think it was 18 carries or something like that. So they're starting to get it's Zach Moss still getting some work, but JT's getting more of his usual workload now. They probably should have won that game. It was a bit of a ref show at the end against Cleveland. Saints on the flip side, Alvin Kamara will probably have 30 catches this game. They'll probably still lose. I don't know. What are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, this reminds me of like the Texans Saints game from a few weeks ago where I just was refusing to pick the Saints out of and I'm gonna do the same thing because the Saints are just no fun. They just Carr annoys me to no end with his like we said, it's just the checkdowns. Like, what is he doing on 4th and 4 in this Jaguars game? Like, I don't get it. Like, is he stat padding? Honestly,
He
like
must
I
have
don't.
Kamara in like $1 million buy-in fantasy league or something.
I mean, that seems more like just because I don't understand. Has no one told him on 4th and 4 don't check it down? I mean, I just don't
It's a
get.
crazy
I don't get
concept.
it. But I'm gonna get off that tangent for a second. Yeah, and like talk about the Colts. Like they're really able to run the ball even without Richardson, which is a good sign that this line is kind of back to being in the form it was a couple years ago. Steichen is drawing out some really cool plays. It looks like you've got two starting receivers in Downs and Pittman, and Pierce looks like a solid starter as well, to be honest.
Yeah.
If not like a good fourth. And you've got Jelani Woods, who hasn't played all year at tight end, but he's got some potential, and this defense hasn't been too bad either. So really, really things looking up for this Colts team. Minshew looks competent this week after not looking so good against the Jaguars. Saints are a pretty tough defense, so I guess I could see it going either way, but I am going to go with the Colts.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with the Colts too. I've been really impressed, honestly, with how they've been able to perform without Richardson. I think Minshew. I mean, he beat the Ravens earlier in the year. This offense, had a gazillion yards against a really good Browns defense last week. So I don't see why I wouldn't expect that to continue against this Saints defense. I think running the ball is, first and foremost on this team. And JT, they're finally getting him back. Zach Moss is second in the NFL in rushing yards right now. He's having a huge season. So the two of those guys alone, I think, can really make this offense successful. And they've proved they can put up points. Minshew's proved that he's a solid QB. I mean, obviously, I don't think anyone's looking at him as a starter or a long term guy, but he's a guy who can go win you football games and is probably one of the better. He's up there probably with top 3 backup in the league, I would say.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I expect them to win. And like you said, the Saints. I mean, it's Alvin Kamara literally might lead the NFL in like receptions, and he missed like 3 or 4 games. I mean, it's like pretty crazy, but it's like not that crazy. I mean, he's getting like 12, 13 catches a game. It's like ridiculous. It's wild. So if you have him on your fantasy team, I mean, you gotta love Derek Carr. You may as well buy a jersey. But I'm gonna go with the Colts in this one. Moving along, battle of the top 2 picks: Texans at Panthers. CJ Stroud obviously continues to ball out. This Texans team 3-3, coming off a win against the Saints. So I guess they were on bye last week. Panthers still looking for their first one of the season. They're also coming off bye. What are your thoughts on this one? I mean, I feel like probably the Texans. I don't know. What do you think?
I'm going with the Panthers, man.
Wow.
I feel like it feels like the Panthers week to figure things out, and they changed play callers offensively over the bye week, and I think that might help Frank Reich be able to be more of like a leader, and might help this offense as well be better play called if Frank Reich's just not suited to be a play caller at this point. Which is certainly possible. That happens where some guys kind of just lose their juice, and then someone else can take over and take that role completely fine. Like that'll happen sometimes. And this is still a pretty lackluster Texans team in terms of talent, probably more talented than the Panthers, but not by this ridiculous margin. Like you've got Brian Burns, you've got, some pieces on the line, at least in theory. And you have the number 1 pick in Bryce Young. And then obviously you have Stroud, Will Anderson, Tunsil, some other guys for the Texans. But it's like neither of these teams are hyper talented. So I see this as a kind of a toss-up type game. I'm just kind of leaning towards the Panthers, kind of regression to the mean. I just don't think they're I just don't think they're bad enough to be a 2-win team. Maybe they are though. I don't know.
Yeah, I think the Panthers, I don't know. I feel like for whatever reason, the Panthers the last few years, not just this year with Bryce Young, but just in general, I feel like everyone kind of overrates their roster a little bit and just always acts like they're better than they are when it's this team really doesn't have that many long-term pieces, I feel like. Um, Obviously, now they're finally fully at the start of a rebuild. But even still, I mean, you yourself thought that the Panthers would. Obviously, this division sucks, so it's anyone could win this division. But there were people out there who genuinely thought the Panthers could win the division this year, and obviously, it's been disappointing for them. I am going to pick the Texans. Um, I think that their offense is better at this point than the Panthers. Who really only have Adam Thielen. You can't really look at anyone else and feel comfortable about them. Chuba Hubbard did have a pretty good week. The game, I guess it was against Miami, was their last game. He played pretty well. So hopefully maybe they get him involved. Miles Sanders, disappointing year so far. But the flip side, the Texans, they've had a pretty fun offense, to be honest. Tank Dell's a fun young player. Nico Collins is kind of broken out. Robert Woods is a veteran holding it down. So they actually have a pretty solid receiving core. Dalton Schultz at tight end, and Dameon Pierce hasn't really had a great second year. I think, people were hoping maybe he'd make a little more of a leap. We haven't really seen that. And this defense is just well coached. I mean, they're a well coached team under D'Amico Ryans, who's obviously had a lot of success. I think they've already exceeded expectations. I think Stroud's already exceeded expectations. So, this team, maybe they make a run to compete for a playoff spot. I don't know, 3-3. So it's a possibility, but I do think they'll beat the Panthers this week.
Yeah. All right, Browns Seahawks. Yeah, this is an interesting game. I'll leave it to you. I mean, Watson's not playing, correct?
He's out. Yeah, he's ruled out.
Okay, so yeah, I mean, this feels like just going to be an interesting matchup between the Seahawks offense and the Browns defense, two of the stronger units in the league. The Browns defense has just been really, really good. So I'm excited to watch them play. They're fun to watch. They did give up a lot of points last week, weirdly, but I have a feeling they're going to bounce back this week just fine. Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, they're rolling out. I mean, Deshaun plays last week. He throws 2 picks. The shoulder gets injured again. It's just what are we doing here? It's just a mess. I mean, as each day goes on, the Deshaun contract and trade just looks worse and worse and worse. But this team is 4-2 somehow. Their defense is really, really good. Myles Garrett is a freak. I mean, he blocked a kick last week. I think he forced a fumble, had 2-3 sacks. I mean, dude is a machine. PJ Walker, I mean, he looked pretty bad last week. He didn't really, the first week he kind of got away with it against San Fran. Last week it was just all right, this guy is, there's a reason he's not starting in the NFL. But I don't know, in Seattle, I'm going to pick the Seahawks here. I think, offensively, they've got the pieces to be able to score on this Browns defense. I think, and defensively, I just think they'll be able to give, PJ Walker some trouble. Obviously, Jerome Ford's going to be out for this game as well. That secondary for Seattle, I mean, Witherspoon's been a beast. Tariq Woolen obviously is a great player. They just signed Frank Clark back. I don't know if he'll be playing this week, but if he is, that's only a plus for them. So, yeah, I'll go with the Seahawks at home. It's always tough to win in Seattle, so I don't know if PJ Walker can go and lead this team to a victory.
Yeah, I'll go Browns. I just think this defense is going to win them this game. I think their defense is probably the best in the league. Garrett is having a defensive player of the year caliber season.
Yep.
And I just think he's going to be too much, like they said on the broadcast, it's rare, or I think maybe it was on Red Zone. I forget who said it, but it's rare you see a defensive player dominate a game this way. And, you really only see it with a few guys, and Garrett's one of those guys. And you just, he's a great player. and he's not the only reason I'm picking them. They have a great secondary pieces off the edge and on the interior, good linebackers. They're good everywhere on the defense. So there's a reason why they're such a good unit. But for this Browns offense, I think maybe they can move the ball against a weaker Seahawks run defense. And I think Pierre Strong is probably going to be getting the start here at running back or splitting with Kareem Hunt. And I don't know. I kind of like Pierre Strong. I think he could
Yeah.
kind of take one off. So I don't know. That could be interesting. So that's why I'm going with the Browns here. Yeah.
Yeah, very, very reasonable pick. This should be a pretty good game. Another really good game. Bengals at 49ers. Seems like Sam Darnold's probably going to be the one starting this game as Brock Purdy is concussed. Um, Bengals have been bouncing back. Obviously, I think they were on bye last week, right? Maybe, yeah.
They were on bye.
Yeah. Niners have now lost 2 in a row. They're pretty banged up. Deebo Samuel, obviously, I think is out for this game still. Is Trent Williams still out? Maybe.
I think he's doubtful. I
That's
believe.
not good.
I'll check right.
Yeah, so the Niners are banged up. It's gonna be the Sam Darnold show. What are your thoughts on this one? I mean, I feel like this Niners team all of a sudden was 5-0, and now it feels like legit shot for 5-3 here.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. So Purdy is actually still listed as questionable.
Okay.
But Debo is out. Dre Greenlaw is unspecified, which I think means he's playing. But then Trent Williams is also questionable. So
Okay.
I'm gonna go with the Bengals here. I think even if Purdy's playing, he's not gonna have all of his like easy buttons in the offense in a Deebo Samuel. And if they're able to shut down the running game, which is easier said than done, this could be really tough for the Niners to move the ball. Like, I just have a feeling this Bengals defense, they have a good run defense. I think they're going to be able to, if they can even just slow down McCaffrey, force Purdy/Darnold into obvious passing situations without his Debo, and then you can put more doubles on Ayuk and more attention on McCaffrey and Kittle. It just makes things a lot easier for the defense. And I think the Bengals are going to really have appreciated this bye week. I think Burrow got an extra week to get better. That doesn't hurt. And they just seem to be figuring things out pretty slowly. They're probably not going to end up with, a top seed in the AFC, but they're probably going to end up making the wild card. And everyone knows they're going to be dangerous once that happens. If they're in, they're going to be dangerous, no matter what. So I'm going to go with the Bengals here. What about you?
Yeah, I'm gonna go with the Bengals too. I think the Niners are just banged up right now. I mean, I'm excited to see. I do hope Sam Darnold starts. I want to see kind of Sam Darnold at this point in this Niners offense. I think would be really fun. Um, but yeah, like you said, this Bengals team relatively healthy right now, which I think is big. Jamar Chase has started to ball out these last few weeks. T. Higgins is the one guy who just has not gotten going whatsoever, which is interesting. He had that one game against the Ravens, which was really good. And then outside of that, he's just been a non-factor, which is concerning to say the least. I'm sure he's not happy in a contract year playing like this, but so it'll be interesting to see. I mean, I think as good as Jamar Chase is, I think they do need to make sure that they need T. Higgins to be balling out. I think for this offense and for this team to be as good and live up to the potential that they have. Defense has played pretty solid, so yeah, I don't got much more than that. I think T. Higgins is a potential. They just got to get T. Higgins going, but I think regardless, I think Jamar Chase will have a big game, and I think this team will win.
Yeah. On to the next Chiefs Broncos. I'm assuming we're both going Chiefs here.
Yeah,
I have nothing to say, so go ahead.
Yeah, the Chiefs. I mean, the one thing I will say about them is, Chargers last week. That was a big win for them. They, really blew them out. I mean, they won by 2 touchdowns. So, Travis Kelce, just a freak of nature. I mean, that guy is something special, man. So, yeah, this Chiefs team. If there was any doubt and even concerns about the offense, I feel like they're kind of quelled now a little bit. They bring Mecole Hardman back in the building, which is good. Rashee Rice. It's starting to be like, all right, the same old Chiefs, 6-1. Looking, it feels like they haven't even. Besides that Lions game too, I feel like maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like they haven't really had any competitive games. Like I feel like they've kind of
The
been in the
Jets game.
driver's seat. The Jets, yes, that would be, I guess, the one you could point to. So yeah, I don't got much more than that though. All right, next game, Ravens at Cardinals. I guess this is kind of another quick one. The Cardinals, they got that one win against Dallas, and now we've just seen them fall back. I feel like I've said the same thing for the last 4 weeks. I don't know. The Ravens looked really good last week. I mean, they beat the crap out of the Lions, who I think, the Lions had people start to think that they were potentially the best team in the NFL. And the Ravens just absolutely dominated them. Mark Andrews had a pair of touchdowns. Gus Bus had a good game. Lamar's he's been doing his thing, man. So yeah, I'll go with the Ravens here. I don't got much more to say than that.
Yeah. The only thing of note here really is that Kyler is doubtful, so he'll probably be back at some point soon.
Yep.
Pick him up in your fantasy leagues. I might have said this last week. I picked him up in all three of my fantasy leagues. He's a good fantasy quarterback when with his legs, and they have decent playmakers like that for nothing. If you don't have a good quarterback, absolutely put him on your IR spot and just wait and see if he comes back. But outside of that, like the Ravens have looked really, really good recently. I'm really kind of back in on this passing game in a weird way. They look this like and it's not even necessarily because the receivers so much as it is Lamar. I mean, Lamar
Yeah.
just looked like in complete control. Like he had a bit of like a Joe Burrow type, command over the game, which isn't something we've necessarily said with Lamar. It's always been the
Mm.
athleticism and the, ability to make plays with his feet along with the arm. But, now it seems like if he can be just deciphering defenses and like cutting them up like this, like it's not going to be fun to play him with his athleticism. And that doesn't matter because he could play with his left hand and probably beat this Cardinals team. So they're like their shtick is kind of run its course, where they try hard on both sides of the ball. They're reasonably well coached, but there's just no talent here, so
Yeah.
they're not very good.
Yeah, I agree. Sorry, I was looking at my phone and apparently Zach Moss elbow/heel did not practice today and is now questionable for Sunday's game. So I need Jonathan Taylor fantasy owners out there. Could be very big if JT he might take that big workload and never look back. So something to monitor. Not that affects, I don't think. I mean, JT getting the ball more, I think only
Yeah.
enforces our Colts picks more at this point. But sorry about the little tangent. Bears
No,
at
no.
Chargers. I mean, these are all the last 4 games are just all like easy. I feel like Chargers for me in this one. Obviously, Tyler Bagent, Tyson. Well,
Casual.
I'm a casual guys. You heard
No,
it here
I'm kidding.
first. I mean they put up a 30 piece last week. Donta Foreman with the 3 touchdowns, the classic. So he balled out. I mean balled out. He threw for 150 yards, but pretty good for a undrafted kid. Yeah, but I will go with the Chargers. They need this win desperately. They're 2-4 right now. I mean, just a Chargers, man. It's just they always have the hype, and it's just never lives up to the expectations. And Brandon Staley, I mean, he's got to have the hottest seat of any coach in the NFL at this point. I mean, he needs to go. So yeah, I'm gonna go with the Chargers though. The Bears, I don't see them winning this game.
Yeah, no, I agree with everything you said. Like, super important game for a Chargers team that even though like we probably don't see them living up to their expectations if you saw them as a Super Bowl team, I think we still see them as a playoff team that could potentially win a
Yes.
game or two. Like, so in terms of that, this is still a very important game for them at least. But I'll say this on Brandon Staley. I don't know what he does here, but my sense
What do you?
was I watched a podcast over the summer that talked about the Chargers, and they said this front office and ownership group is not, they don't view Brandon Staley as on the hot seat. So he should be. He probably shouldn't even be a defensive coordinator, if we're being honest. I don't think he's even one of the best 32 defensive coaches in the league. Forget, his head coaching ability and the fact that it's more valuable to probably have an offensive coach at this, in this modern NFL. So I don't really get what he does, but he seems like he's going to be here for a while. So the Chargers might just be screwed for a couple of years, which sucks because they've got a good quarterback, and that's not something you want to waste, but seems like they might be heading down that direction.
Yeah. Oh, well. Last game of the week, Raiders at Lions. I think we're probably both picking the Lions here. I think, rough week last week, but they should bounce back. Jameer Gibbs looked really good, which I guess is, a positive. Amon-Ra, St. Brown continuing to ball out. Laporta has been great for them. So I see no reason why they won't take care of business at home against the Raiders.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head. I think they're going to be able to run the ball. I think this defense is going to have a bounce back week. The Raiders, I think, haven't even scored 20 points in a game yet. Is that possible?
That sounds right. They're 3-4.
They're 3-4.
They've scored 21 against New England, but that was their highest of the season.
Okay. So, yeah. So
3-4. God damn,
yeah.
That's crazy.
So they're not a very inspiring football team. And the Lions, even despite their loss last week, I'm still high on them as at least a top 3 to 4 team in the NFC. So I'm going with the Lions here pretty easily.
Yeah. Well, that was I feel like the Raiders have been playing so many primetime games. That is like,
yeah, why?
Because they played the Packers was primetime. Maybe that was the only one.
No, no. I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm saying why are they on?
No. I know. I don't know. It's so weird because the Steelers game was primetime too. I think, right?
Yeah, so and then they play another one later. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, they play the Jets. I think.
Jets. Yeah.
That's weird, and it's like a weird game, like against the Lions. Like I don't know, man. But well, good for the Raiders, man. America needs more Jimmy G, I guess, is what the bottom is. Yeah. Well, that will do it for this week's episode of Outside the Arena. Thank you all for watching. If you haven't already, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. Check us out on Apple Podcasts and Spotify at Outside the Arena. Social medias will all be down below in the description. It's a great time of the year for sports. We got baseball winding down, football, basketball just tipping off. You got all the major sports at once. I mean, this is peak sports, peak sports. I don't know what I'm saying at this point, but yeah, regardless, thank you so much for watching. We'll see y'all next week on Outside the Arena.